low levels up here.
Yeah, you got us fucked up. How? Your whole ass. Don't stand in my blind spot with your mask. I can stand wherever the fuck I want to. It's cold outside. Fuck you talking about, you scurry ass nigga.
And if your bitch ass had enough authority, you would have been able to do something. Whole ass nigga.
Whole ass
You's a hoe. Oh, both of y'all.
Man,
fuck both of y'all.
Your gun off then. Come up here without your uniform.
Pussy ass rookies.
District right there.
Come up here after 11.
2:30 then.
Come up here after 11 o'clock.
I'm already supporting.
Come up out here after 11 o'clock, motherfucker.
Cold outside.
That's what y'all do. Come up here after 11 o'clock.
I'm gonna clear the street. You need to try and figure out something to clear the street.
Fuck out of here. We gonna stand on the sidewalk. Cause it ain't no charge. You bitch ass nigga.
Facts have got to matter. If we want to make some changes here on what's going on, the police have already recognized the fact that we have some issues that we've got to deal with. All right? Now the black community has got to also understand that they have issues that they have to deal with. All right? This is not a one-way street here. And now you got police officers, you got the Ferguson effect that we're dealing with today. All right, it's because police officers are second-guessed right away. We had the incident in Louisiana and in Minneapolis. Okay, we don't know what happened there. Okay, especially what happened in Minneapolis. All right, the investigation is still going on, but to come out with the rhetoric that the police officers were racist when there's no evidence to indicate that racism was involved has got to stop. All right, if that doesn't stop, and this thing about the disparity of blacks and whites in jails, that's got to stop, because I got statistics right here which will prove me right. In New York City alone, okay, blacks are 23%. They make up 75% of the population. 75% of all shootings, 70% of all robberies, and 60% of all violent crimes. All right, the whites only 3%. Now that is why there were more blacks in jail than there are whites. But that's okay. And now let me just finish here and then go. All right. So we look at that statistic. All right. They turn it around. You know, the racial demagogues out there turn it around that the blacks are being picked on. It's not. So the facts in these statistics, all right, have to be addressed, and you've got to understand them.
But both can be true, right? Both can be true. You wind up dealing with a community more because of socioeconomics and criminality, but the question still remains, Mark, of how you deal with that community.
Right. Can I respond to Harry?
Please.
Okay. So
please, and I'm coming to you,
Jeff. There's a couple things there. First, Harry talked about the idea of people immediately second-guessing the police. The police should be second-guessed. They're public servants, and we're the public. We should be second-guessing them, just like we should second-guess our politicians.
He's saying don't automatically infer an assumption of racism. That's what he's saying.
Well, that's not what he said, but and we have to make that distinction, right? We have to make the distinction.
Right.
Should be subject to scrutiny, but so long as police have not been, and because police have not been, sometimes at this point, police are frustrated when you don't take their word as gospel right away. And with camera phone technology, increased witness technology, we see that they're not always telling the truth. Now, to Terry's second point, which is that in Ferguson, we immediately jumped up and said this is racism without any evidence of racism. We did an investigation in the Ferguson Police Department. I talk about this in my new book, and there is considerable evidence of racism in Ferguson. So it isn't true that there was no evidence of racism. There were racist emails, racist phone calls, racist practices.
He's saying in this specific incident.
No, come on.
Let me finish.
There were 3 emails, I believe, that were racist, correct?
But Harry, there's only
40 emails.
Harry, there's only like 100.
It doesn't matter.
But Harry, hold on.
That means it's systemic.
Guys. Harry's still on national TV and just said that black people are prone to criminality. I wouldn't be able to respond to that. Okay.
Well, they are.
But you think black people are prone to criminality?
The statistics here show this.
You don't mean to say that. I'm gonna give you a chance to correct me. You don't mean that black people are prone to criminality.
What does this say?
I don't know what that says, but I know.
The chief can back me up because he's coming out.
He's not going to stay on national TV and say black people are prone to criminality.
I am telling you, 75% of all shootings are blacks.
I'm hoping you just don't know.
75% of shootings. What you're doing is you're interpreting something else I'm saying into your narrative. That's what you do.
I'm just trying to talk.
Mark, hold on one second.
I think you just don't know prone.
Points I'd like to make. First of all, I'm not going to say we're prone to blacks prone to crime because I don't believe it, and it's not true. That's the first.
It's not true. It's racist.
The second thing, I have a slight difference.
It is not racist.
To say that black people are prone to criminality.
That's not what I said. I said 75% of the shootings that occur in New York City are done by blacks. All right? And you keep on talking about this disproportionate amount of whites and blacks in jail.
Because it is disproportionate.
And this is why. No, it's not. It is, by the definition, it is.
How about we don't yell?
That's exactly what I'm going to say.
All right.
Okay.
This is a conversation that is not always easy to have. You're going to have clashes of perspective. But we all know this, all right? If you do not have this conversation the right way, you do not move forward. You can discuss the difference between entire race is prone to criminality, which I know is not what you mean, and that
that's what I was trying to correct.
Statistically, I know,
but that's not what I meant.
But the way,
and that's why I said I don't think you meant that.
Right,
Mark,
exactly.
because that's racist.
I know, but Mark, you got to. We need to give people some space right now and need to think about how we're treating.
Yes, but Chris, we're also on national television, and we can't say things like that.
I know, but the way we do it is different.
Look at the numbers, though, Mark.
Can we address those numbers?
Pay attention to those numbers.
We know
we have to address those numbers.
No, we know the numbers are a function of a disproportionate level of criminality within the population that's represented.
Numbers are also dishonest because there are other dimensions.
Absolutely,
they're true.
There are other dimensions.
They're not true.
Let's take one step at a time.
It's your interpretation, which is wrong.
No, first of all, my interpretation, Harry, Googling some numbers is different than talking to me.
No.
First of all,
I don't Google numbers. This came from the NYPD. These are NYPD numbers.
Oh, well, then they must be true.
Yeah,
yes, they are.
Oh, then they must be true.
Because I was in robbery for 4 years.
But how you discuss it matters also. Let me get to the chief.
Okay.
We're going to have lots of conversations on this. It's just the first step.
Just a point of reference that I'd just like to point out to Harry. One, when you point to these racial demagogues, quote-unquote racial demagogues, one thing that you should take into consideration, a lot of times the media is flocking to a couple of individuals that may or may not be speaking for the African-American community. The second thing is that if you look at that incident that took place in Baltimore, it took a year before that video was released. And you had plenty of officers who did not fire their weapons, but filed reports stating something other than the facts. That's what people are talking about. They're not talking about any specific instances. What they're saying is that government and law enforcement had the opportunity to clean up the injustices that has been taking place in the criminal justice system, the biases and the racism for decades and decades. It has not happened. And those need to be addressed. It does not mean that there are not a lot of good cops. It doesn't mean that law enforcement does not serve all communities well. It means that changes have to be made, talks have to be stopped, and action needs to be taking place. End bottom story. And I think that's the issue that we need.
Do you think that police departments are systematically racist?
I think that there's a lot of systemic. Well, I'll give you one example.
Systemic. And the true definition of systemic.
I'll answer that question.
It means everybody is.
We know what it means. That's not what it means.
It doesn't mean it does.
No, it does not. Harry, you can't just make up words and define them. Systemic does not mean.
You do.
Can I answer?
No, I don't.
Guys,
Harry,
you have to be able to talk
all throughout
to each other.
I would like
Okay.
to,
Yes, but
Let the chief finish, and then we're going to continue this
I would like to
conversation
answer that
another
question.
time. Go ahead, chief.
I think the intent of the racism that takes place in law enforcement is grossly overstated, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And one point example I will give you is this, is that in New York City Police Department, which I think would be the most valued company in this world, I'm a big supporter of it, we always stated that we stop people where the crime took place at. So subsequently, you're going to have more stops in African American communities.
Right.
But if you looked at where we did our checkpoints, our vehicle checkpoints, we did them primarily in African American Latino communities.
Right.
Now, is that saying that they drank more than others? So what happens is that, and when you present that data, then you say, well, hold on, maybe we are doing things that we're not intentionally aware of. And I think what protesters are saying is, let's all take a look, because there are problems. Problem doesn't mean that you're all bad. It doesn't mean that you're all good. It means that there are problems that have to be taken. And if we sit down and we kill a rhetoric and we have some intelligent conversation, we can make a change for the better for all.
And look, we know each other very well, Chief. You and I are getting, to know each other better now. You're going to be part of our conversation. We've got to take a breath. Even when something that's said is completely wrong, we got to deal with each other the right way. I'm not in the business of lecturing you guys. I have you here because I need you here. This is the first step of the conversation we got to keep having. Thank you for starting it today. All right? I know there's a lot more that needs to be said. I do. I've lived this for a long time as well. But let's just take one step at a time. All right? Mark's going to give it to me in the break. Coming up in our next hour, we're going to talk to Dallas police for the...
I've been on the air with Mark Lamont Hill a couple times, both times for an extended period of time. At least to me on the air, he's not a bad guy. Gave me a chance to talk, and I was saying pretty much the same thing this guy was saying, except maybe I was saying it calmer and more confidently. I was saying black crime is wildly out of proportion, black violence is wildly out of proportion, and reporters and public officials are ignoring, denying, condoning, excusing, encouraging, and even lying about it. Listen, the guy, the police analyst, I'm not saying what he was doing was easy. I mean, if that's not your thing, and all of a sudden you're tossed into this cauldron of hostility and accusations, yeah, things can get a little bit uptight. I've actually been guilty of that on many occasions myself. But this one segment was kind of a welcome dose of reality from Newt saying we have to agree, or we have to understand black people. Rudy Giuliani even agreeing with him. And I mean, the white guy basically said, hey, why doesn't somebody understand this? Black criminality is wildly out of proportion. All we needed was Newt to come by and say, hey, white police analyst, why are you making the black kids angry?